This is an ad hoc screencast to go over the aEEG, or Amplitude Integrated EEG, measurements in PERSIST, how they're calculated, and how to get the information of those measurements out from the program in a couple of different ways. My name is Michael Guest, VP of Research and Clinical Applications for PERSIST Development. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to select a neonatal montage. This is the recorded montage, by the way. This is the AMP reference input montage, and that's what's being recorded to disk. And let's go ahead and select a neonatal bipolar montage for this particular application, because that'll line up with the trends that we're going to look at here in a moment. To do that, go ahead and select the split screen, and you can see the artifact reduction is on, and we're getting some striations in the trends. For neonate, if I'm seeing that the artifact reduction is not being optimized for the neonatal application, I'll go ahead and just toggle that off, and that'll work nicely for that. Let's go ahead and select an aEEG trend panel to get started. And you notice over on the right here, we're already showing the values. Now, by default, it's going to show the scaling for aEEG, and that's scaled 0 to 10 microvolts for the bottom half, and then it goes 50, 75, 100. Now, if I look at a 3-channel representation, it stretches that out a little bit more. You can see those gradients a little bit easier, but there's the 0 through 5, then up to 10, 50, 75, 100 microvolts. Let's go ahead and switch back over to a all-channel representation. It lines up pretty much with the montage that we're showing on the left, and look at those values. Now, the values that we're going to be looking at, when I right-click and select Show Values, those are going to be the maximum values. As we look at aEEG, we'll see that it calculates the min-max and renders that within the vertical epoch. And we can see that if we select the trend panel duration here, and we'll take that from an hour, we'll begin dropping it down here, and we'll go all the way down to a minute. And we can see that some of these pixels, or epochs I should say, are filled in top to bottom. And so how is that being calculated? Well, we can go to the help guide. And as always, this isn't intended to replace the user guide, because the user guide has indications for use and warnings, all very important stuff. And it has useful information about the trending instruments. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. When I open up the trending topic, we get a whole bunch of them over here. I'm going to stretch the border of this out and scroll down to aEEG. I'm going to go to the aEEG trend topic. We look at the technical details of how this is calculated. In a nutshell, it's put through a 2 to 20 hertz filter and downsampled 64 samples per second, and that's the asymmetric filter that replicates the Maynard type filters that were originally developed with aEEG. The output of that is rectified, and a low pass filter is applied, and you get 1 second epochs of the amplitude, the full wave rectified amplitude. That's expressed in its peak to peak, so that the top of that epoch and the bottom of it shows the minimum and the maximum amplitudes. And that's all explained here. So if we look at this, we can see that some of these epochs are fairly short in stature. And then when we see a larger excursion, it's rendered in that color for a greater extent of that vertical space. And we can precisely position that as we go forward using the single arrow on the EEG page. That's moving the cursor precisely over here. And so wherever we want to see the values, if we wanted to look at them up close, we just position the cursor, and it's going to show us those readings over on the right. Now I can right-click on this, copy those names and values to clipboard, and just get that instantaneous value of the aEEG. Now there's another way to get these values out as well, and you can see I've already selected some of these trends on the left. And so what I do is I just, let's go ahead and show the trend display full screen, and I'm going to change the trend panel duration back out to a longer piece. Let's say I wanted to capture this particular seizure here that's being represented in the aEEG. If I go to this part of the trend and click on the EEG, we can look at the underlying waveforms. let's say I want the aEEG values for that trend and for these particular channels that I've selected. And again, I just hold down the control key and I left click on those and it highlights those so that I can tell the program these are the ones that I want to get those values for. So I'm just going to highlight this and these. So those 4. Then I can put a range on there by right-clicking on the trend panel and insert range. And so if I want all of these values to be output, once I've done that, and I've told it for which channels I'd like that to be expressed for, I can go to Tools and Export Channel and Trend Values and write that out. And you can see I've already export one of these. And let's see what those results are. I'll bring up the spreadsheet, and it's showing me for each channel the aEEG values by epoch. And you can see that these times are incrementing appropriately. Now we can increase the second resolution of these as well. I'll show how to do that. In the meantime though, let's go ahead and see what these are. So notice for each aEEG, I'm getting 5 outputs. And those are the calculated values that include the max, the min, the median, the 25th percent value, and the 75% value. So for each one, you're getting the calculations that are made by the aEEG trend. Certainly the max and the min, those are used to render those outputs in the trend that give it its vertical excursion per epoch. The 25, 75, those are also available. If I click on the trend properties and go to the output tab, you can see there's a number of options available for rendering that information. In any case, that is, in a nutshell, the way to get those values out from persist for the aEEG. One is if you want the cursor values, we can go ahead and split the screen, reduce the time scale for the trends, and arrow forward, and we get those values at the cursor position with each mouse click. That is updated, and you see those over on the right. To get them for a range of values, we put the trends full screen. We can increase the trend duration if we want to mark a particular range. Well, maybe not 4 hours, we'll just do out to an hour. I use that single arrow over on the right to position this where I want. And to pop that range in there, let me go ahead and delete the range. I just left click to put the cursor start, right click, insert range, and then whichever one of these trends I've selected, let's say I wanted FP1 T3, T301, FP2 T4, T402. I've got a range selected, I've got these outputs selected, go to Tools, Export Channel Trend Values, and those are written. That is the aEEG in a nutshell. Happy to connect by web conference if there's any questions. Again, this is Michael Guest, VP of Research and Clinical Applications for Persist Development Corporation. Thank you.